Live everywhere on netrootsradio.com. David Waldman, Kagro, in the morning. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Monday, November 3rd, 2025. Time for another week's worth of shows. And lingering cold today, but I've got about a gallon of tea in me already, which should make waiting for the breaks interesting. Let's say that. There'll be a certain sense of urgency to the show around, 9:26 or so. And then also lozenges and all sorts of fun medications, piling up all the home remedies that I can. And we'll make it through the show as usual. And because Monday, of course, it's that much easier. We have Greg Dworkin to use as a crutch to make it through the first hour. So that's helpful. Appreciate his helping us through the shows last week. Made it possible to get even through those 2-hour marathons on Tuesday and Friday. So it's just the right amount of rest and, of course, just the right amount of, not enough, really, input from just another voice and another perspective, which is always good, especially first thing on a Monday. It's difficult to keep up with the craziness of the weekend. Trump was back at home, and this is where he creates the chaos. It was a relatively, I wasn't going to say a quiet weekend, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It was a very Trumpy weekend. And then he made a lot of splashy noise. He didn't say anything in particular on Friday, but he left town as usual and went down to his weirdo sex dungeon at Perv-a-Lago. But big news for the beginning of the weekend because it was Halloween and SNAP benefits were running out as of Saturday, the very next day. And he flew down not only to have a giant party at his weirdo pleasure palace, but he also decided, somebody decided for him, although he loves little details like this, so he might have intervened at this point. I mean, he loves decorating more than anything else. Hugely alpha, by the way. Just interior decoration is just a huge passion for him, and that's okay. Except that he's doing it, and we actually don't like his taste as well. So we have a criticism on that level. But he went down to Mar-a-Lago and had a giant costume party, which does make sense for Halloween, except for the part about, the government is shut down and you're about to cut off people's food assistance. But then on top of it, of course, somebody chose a Great Gatsby theme, which was just incredibly moronic, but, they may have done it. It may even have been on purpose. There are those kinds of people. And so it was an excuse for the Real Housewives of Palm Beach, I guess, by which I mean the 75% synthetic housewives of Palm Beach, to come out in antique or recreation short flapper dresses, which is really just never a good idea if you're over, let's say 35. I think you should probably just say, maybe there's some other way or a long gown. Might even be helpful. Anyway, so very bizarre, and it complete with, they had cabaret-style dancing girls, fan dancers, somebody dancing in reclining in an old-style champagne glass, doing the dance in there, also, and, in addition to being insensitive economically, also not really the kind of performers you line up for when you're trying your best to cover up your giant pervert problem. But then you don't have it at Perv-a-Lago if that's going to be the case. Anyway, lots of Instagram photos distributed online, making him look, ridiculous. By the way, the party, I noticed the photos of Trump at the party were under a tent erected outdoors, maybe on the patio or something, and it just struck me as odd because, of course, the last week has been all about the construction of the White House, the purported White House ballroom, if that's ever built or if that's indeed what they're actually building. No one knows with him. But his big excuse for doing this, including ripping down the East Wing of the White House to do it, was that it was a huge disgrace to the presidency that if you have a large gathering at the White House, there isn't an event space large enough to seat 1,000 people, which, that's normal at most houses, probably, even mansions. But he was tired of having to put up tents outdoors to have your VIPs sit out there. Then, of course, he went down to Mar-a-Lago and put up tents outdoors and put his VIPs out there. He kept saying, we got to have a ballroom like the beautiful, beautiful ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. So he's got a ballroom there, and they're still outdoors. I don't know what's going on, but I guess in Florida, that's a plus. But in D.C., in late October, it's not. Okay, maybe. Anyway, he then went on to go on to 60 Minutes, returning to CBS's air after extorting several $1 million from them and forcing a change at the top of their management. And he took full advantage of that. And then, of course, the big irony was that he had sued them and got them to settle on the claim that they had edited their interview with Kamala Harris during the campaign. And then, of course, they heavily edited his interview last night, including apparently chopping out the portion in which he brags about how much money he extorted from them, which, I guess they think didn't make them look particularly good. Although I thought it was a pretty good excuse for explaining why he was on their air. And then the things that they did air, of course, one after another of examples of, this guy just needs to be removed from office, either for just breaking the law outright, violating the Constitution outright, or just plain being crazy and mentally not up to the task. So there was an awful lot. And yet there's so much more happening. And Greg Dworkin is rounding it up, so much so that, in fact, I did not line up my introduction, my usual introduction. So, all right, hang on just a second. And
no, it's okay, really. No,
okay.
It's okay.
It's all right. What about the reverse fanfare? I found that one. All right, there's an awful lot going on.
We'll do the reverse one on Wednesday.
Okay, we'll just do this because this is sort of actually that era, I guess, was over by the time Great Gatsby came around. But I don't know. It's closer in time to Great Gatsby than than any other occurrence. All right, so it was a big weekend. There's more to the point, stuff happening during this week, like an election. Tomorrow is like, that's it. Finally, we have our election day and everybody can stop voting, for God's sake, and then start answering polls instead, waiting for the next time to vote.
The funny thing about The Great Gatsby, which is a terrific book,
I hear good things about it more and more every day.
Is the famous line, which is why it fits so well. I'll just read it to you. It's short. They were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money or their vast carelessness.
Right.
Tom and Daisy are who, I think Buchanan, Tom and Daisy were who The Great Gatsby longed to be.
Yes.
Tom and Daisy had the money. They fit the money. They were moneyed. And Gatsby was a newcomer who wanted to break into that society and would, stare across, from Little Neck to Great Neck or whatever he did. And, on Long Island, that's where it all took place. But the fact that Tom and Daisy were careless people, absolutely. That's what's so, this is a let 'em eat cake moment. And I have to tell you, it's not helping Trump any. We'll get to that. But I have a whole bunch of new data, including some this morning. Trump is simply not popular. And why is that important? Well, it doesn't make any difference. He's doing what he wants. Well, first of all, there are elections. And Trump's unpopularity is going to have an enormous effect on New Jersey, Virginia, and yes, even New York City, where Trump has endorsed Cuomo as of last night.
Yes.
And Mandami is broadcasting to everybody. Nice. Thank you.
Right.
Trump endorses Cuomo, big signs and such, with the characteristic flashing smile. Saturday Night Live had a fake debate, which was really quite funny.
Oh, I missed
and the Mamdani impersonator. And Mamdani just had a wonderful broadcast by Mamdani discussion on FaceTime about how the impersonator was dressed and how he looked and how his clothes went. It was just wonderful. And Mark Caputo, the reporter from Miami, who's worked for various and sundry outlets, and I can't even keep track of where he is these days.
No one can do that.
Had a very appropriate observation and said, in a close election, if you're not sure who's winning, just check out the guy who's having fun.
All right. Yeah, that's true. I guess if you're really sweating it,
probably going to lose. You know, for example, Rich Azzopardi, who is the Baghdad Bob spokesperson
for
Cuomo.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Tweeted last night. Okay, I'll just say it. Word on the street is that Curtis Sliwa isn't getting out because he made a deal with Zoran Mamdani.
He's not getting out because the election's tomorrow. I mean,
he's not getting out because he's Curtis Sliwa. We've covered Sliwa extensively on the show. People know who he is. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the Curtis Sliwa impersonator on Saturday Night Live was just hysterical.
Well, that's
absolutely hysterical.
That's got to be one of the more fun ones to do. And I think it can be done amateurishly and work.
Well, you know,
have to be dead on.
For anybody, I should have played that clip for you because maybe I'll find it for like 9:30 and not spoil it by attempting to mimic it. I'll find it for you and maybe we'll do that. But the idea that Curtis Sliwa would drop out of the race because Mamdani wants him to, no.
Unlikely for
And even though Eric Adams is now campaigning with Cuomo after Adams called him a snake and a liar.
Why not?
And even after Donald Trump endorses Cuomo, this Baghdad Bob stuff about how, it's everybody else who's the problem, it's just absurd.
Well,
right.
That's certainly
at every possible
level.
Job if you're the competent guy who can get things done behind the scenes, why did Sliwa make a deal with Mamdani? Why didn't he make a deal with you? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, why didn't you prevent that deal?
Incompetent jerk.
Yeah. Well,
and the answer is everybody hates you. That's why.
Right, including Sliwa, who was
who really
definitely not unclear
because
about
he's a true New Yorker, even though he's a right-wing nutjob. So let's play a different tape for you because I want to go in a different direction.
Oh, all right.
And I want to talk about your home state, Virginia.
All right, here it is. Looks the same as yesterday. I'm looking out the window.
Yeah, good. So this is your governor, who doesn't look the same because he's not wearing a fleece vest. And
That's
the mask
true.
is off.
What is happening?
And he's not going to be governor very much longer.
Right.
And he's losing, and his party is losing, and he knows he's losing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll get back to this in more meaningful way, but Abigail Spanberger has an average 11-point lead in the polls for the next governor.
Average.
And in his poorly attended rally for the governor and lieutenant governor on the Republican ticket, Governor Youngkin goes all George Allen.
Well, I guess it makes sense.
And it's racist and disgusting, and I want to play it for you.
Perfect. All right. Yes, I note that the Chiron here says that it is in Purcellville, Virginia, which is here in Loudoun County. So he's gone back to Loudoun, which was rhetorically the key to his election, but electorally,
voted for the other guy, but not in the numbers that we needed.
Right. But he has, since insisted that, the issues in Loudoun is what changed everything. But Loudoun actually, thumped him pretty good. It wasn't the numbers that we were looking for, but it was still 10 plus points. But anyway, he's back in lovely Purcellville, Virginia, rendered the lovelier by the fact that very few people came out to see him by the looks of it.
The lieutenant governor
is
named Ghazala Hashmi.
The Dem nominee, yes.
The Democratic nominee. I don't know much about her. Neither does Virginia.
that is
true.
But
for the most part, what happens is that when you vote for the governor, you generally vote for the lieutenant governor of the same party. And that's how she's going to win.
Okay. All right. So are we ready to roll then? I mean,
I have to mention that because this discussion is about Ghazala Hashmi.
Okay.
So, roll the tape.
All right. Here we go.
Right now. To demonstrate that we are going to reject political violence and we're going to send Jay Jones back where he belongs, which possibly could be jail. That's what we're going to do.
Oh, okay.
We're going to reject Abigail Spamberger and send her back where she belongs, which is about back home. Just go back home.
Yeah, go back home to the kitchen.
Sure.
And we are going to reject Ghazala Hashmi because she is the most liberal leftist member of our General Assembly. And I got to tell you what, folks, I don't want her anywhere. I don't even want her in the state. This is what we have to get done.
Okay. Yeah.
You
not
see any
quite
problem with that?
macaca there, but yeah. Sure, I didn't even want her in the state. Yeah, it is interesting. He probably is ducking that by saying, well, I said state, not country. You can just move to another state. I don't.
Yeah. Meanwhile, at the same rally,
I
John
know,
Reed, who was the lieutenant governor candidate, also who's going to lose to her, says she was funded by the radical Islamists supporting Zoran Mamdani.
Oh, all of those radical Islamists.
So, like, it's really important for Virginians as to what the hell is going on in New York State. And it's funny because I get a lot of pushback. Why are you talking about New York City so much? I mean, I'm from New York City. I get the idea that if you're not from New York City, you think New York City is spoken about way too often and screw the Yankees. I get all of that. I totally understand
a lot of agreement there. Sure.
Yeah, tremendous agreement. However, New York City political stories are often quite interesting from a human point of view. They are great stories. And in this particular case, it's a terrific story about a new, young, not tired, but fresh guy throwing out the Democratic establishment, which is so sclerotic it needs throwing out. And you can do that without being a Democratic socialist, and you can support Mamdani without thinking that all of the anti-Islamic stuff is in the least bit appropriate. But, you know, when Mamdani's candidacy winds up showing up at closing argument rallies in Virginia, luckily for you, you've been paying attention because I've made you pay attention to the New York City election.
Yeah, imagine how
so you know who he's talking about, at least.
That's true. Now, I mean, there's been no shortage of attention, but there is a risk for a Republican rally in Purcellville, Virginia, that if you invoke the scary name of Zoran Mamdani, and even if you use dramatic music behind it, when you do it, there's a real risk, or there was anyway. I guess now we've been so saturated, it's hard to believe everyone else hasn't been. But you might get some blank stares. I don't understand what you're talking about. I heard you say the name of the lieutenant governor candidate, and that sounded weird and foreign. And then you said another weird foreign name. I guess that's scary, but who?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to play the Frau Blucher clip from Young Frankenstein with lightning and thunder in the background.
Well, we have that as our horror dramatic. That is from Young Frankenstein, this one.
Exactly.
It's just the minor key dramatic music.
So, no, it doesn't work. So let me just talk a little bit about Virginia, because I think Virginia is a fascinating place politically.
Yes.
Is it from the South? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it part of Appalachia, as we say in New York? Yes.
It has some, sure.
The South and Southwest parts. The part that, aren't showing up in the greatest numbers in early voting are very much part of Appalachia. I mean, you got coal fields in Virginia. That's
true.
Just like you do in Pennsylvania.
Right. 16 people work there.
So here's the thing. You have what everybody else in the country likes to call off-year elections in your Commonwealth with the rest
somebody
of us
doesn't like that.
State.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And for those of you who are unfamiliar like me, what that means is that since it's an off year,
don't buy wine when we have elections.
Every seat in the House of Delegates is up in these off-year elections every 2 years. But because the state Senate is a 4-year term, we alternate between Senate elections and no Senate elections. And this is a no Senate election year. Did I get that right?
I think that's correct. It occurs to me like, hey, I haven't gotten anything in the mail about state Senate. Yes, that must be the case.
Well, you already voted. Did you vote for any state Senate? Of course not.
No, I didn't. Yeah, right. Well, I wrote people in at the end. You know what? I want to change my state senators. Is that allowed?
There's 100 delegates.
Yeah.
There's 40
Is that right?
senators.
I don't even know. Okay.
I didn't know either. But the reason I'm telling you this
Yes.
is because there is a new young player on the prediction beat named
Predictions.
Chaz
Oh,
Nuttycombe. We've talked about him a little bit.
right. I
But
predicted
his
that is not
state,
real.
but here's the point.
Yeah.
His state navigate shop last time out
Yeah.
correctly predicted 140 out of 140 seats up for grabs in the Virginia House and Senate in the legislature.
Well,
So the guy's got a
you
good track
can't do
record.
better than that. You really, literally, you cannot.
Yeah. And so, as he points out in his predictions for this year, we're not going to go 140 for 140. We can't do better than 100 out of 100.
Right. And that makes the scale easy to understand.
But we're not even trying for that. We just hope for like 97 out of 100.
That'd be pretty good. All right.
So, having said that, he notes early voting indicates that despite massive reductions in large Democratic localities and satellite voting locations compared to 2024, and that I think includes Loudoun, the partisan composition of the early voting electorate slightly bluer than in 2024.
Okay.
Okay. And a reminder, 2024, Harris did win Virginia eventually, right?
Yes.
State Navigate Early Voting Tracker has several features, including calculating how many votes there are in each county and precinct as a percentage of how many ballots were cast in that same area on the equivalent day in 2024, and the Republican base in Southwest Virginia and in large suburban exurban localities like Pittsylvania,
Oh, okay.
Bedford, Campbell, are running slightly behind the statewide total of 2024, despite little or no changes in their early voting access. And performing well with lower and mid propensity voters. So those are the Trump voters that are changing the Republican Party. But rural counties in the coal fields have plummeted in turnout as well.
Yes, well.
The place that's going to do the best,
and they can't
Richmond
go.
media market, because that's where Abigail Spanberger is from, the Democratic candidate. She's from Enrico.
All right. Yeah, that's the county, including Richmond.
So, given all of that, it looks okay for the Democrats. And then here are their predictions. For governor, Abigail Spanberger plus 11.2. That would be a flip from Governor George Allen right now. Lieutenant Governor Hashmi plus 6.4. That's their prediction, which would be a flip. And they are predicting Jay Jones plus 2. In other words, the conventional wisdom, which he and many other of the analysts and predictors that I have been trying to follow for Virginia, are basically saying if Spanberger wins by 11 or more, she'll probably drag Jay Jones across the line.
Okay.
If it's a 6-point lead, then Miyares is going to keep his seat as Attorney General. And again, reminder, the reason Attorney General matters is not just for internal Virginia politics, because it's a good stepping stone to the governorship, but rather you get to or not join national attorneys general across the country suing Trump for whatever illegality he did today. And Miyares won't join, and Jones will. And that's why Democrats should vote for him.
Okay.
Despite the fact that he's a jerk, but,
well,
it's not just because you should vote for him because he's a Democrat, but in 2025, you should vote for him because he's a Democrat.
Okay. Yes, that's all you can do at this point.
Further, the House of Delegates I mentioned has 100.
Yes, right, you did.
It's currently Democratic 51-49 or something like that. Very close. I can't remember the exact
number. It is very close. And
they are predicting 60-40, picking up 9 seats.
Well, that's something.
Based on, as he points out, making sure that you are looking at the proper electorate, and comparing it to 2024 is crazy because this is not a presidential year, and reminding everybody that Donald Trump is really unpopular, and that matters. So with all of that, that's what's going on in Virginia for tomorrow. This is a pre-election roundup of how to look at the Virginia races. And basically, Spanberger will be called early. She'll win. That's not even a question. And some people say, well, the margin doesn't really matter. It's a win, and a win is a win. And besides, none of this stuff's really going to tell you a whole lot about 2026, all of which is true, except that a win of 11 or more for Spanberger might well be enough for Jones to sneak by. And it'd be very nice to have 60-40 instead of 51-49 in the House of Delegates.
Yes.
And this is going to be seen as a referendum on Trump, no matter who says what about it's not being important. And that's very, very important. It's almost break time. So after the break, we're going to wind up talking about, Trump's unpopularity. We'll mention
I like that
New York City and New Jersey, because those are the other two big elections coming up. But
yes.
I want to talk about Trump's unpopularity a little bit more.
I think that's fair to do. And by the way, so the county, including Richmond, the emphasis I understand is on the second syllable, but there's some dispute. I guess
Henrico.
Although I think the old timey natives say Henrico for some reason.
Henrico.
They just I don't know. This is old Southern pronunciations. Virginia has some very weird, as most states do, have some very weird local colloquial
Houston Street down.
Right.
In New York City.
Things like that. Right. I'm used to like Native American based, Anglicization names. I see a lot of that, but they have some really weird ones. And Henrico, I think is what they go with. But I think you can get away with Enrico, I suppose. They'll say, well, almost, I guess. All right, we'll be back. Trump's unpopular.
Hi, I'm Scott Anderson, the guy that writes the daily summary for this show, Kagro in the Morning. Thank you to everyone that supports this show. Many of you send donations through PayPal, Patreon, Square Cash, Radio Public, and so on. Some of you write your own essays and send them in, or read articles with your own commentary. We appreciate it. Now, some of you are listening to this and thinking, I'd like to help, but isn't there something I could do that wouldn't require money or effort? Why, yes, there is. You can just like us. On Daily Kos, they call it the recommend button. YouTube has a thumbs up. There are hearts and likes and love buttons. Tap our love button. Tap our love button every day. Share our shows and summaries on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube and iTunes, Stitcher and Amazon. Most of these places allow you to write a review, so a sentence or two would be great. Recommend us to social media, or tell your friends to listen to the show. You aren't just helping us, you're helping them find their new favorite thing to listen to. You could change the world. So thank you in advance from me and everybody else in the world.
All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. And all right, Trump is unpopular. I understand that was going to be the topic.
He is, but we're going to move from Virginia to New York City.
New York again.
After all, Glenn Youngkin brought it up.
That's true. You opened the door, sir. I'm sorry.
So I would like to play a little bit of the Saturday Night Live debate that they had amongst the New York City candidates.
Okay.
And you will know them because we've covered them, especially Sleaze you never heard of. You probably knew Andrew Cuomo. You certainly know Mamdani by now.
Yeah. All right. You've cued me to the right spot here. Let's see what we got. How long we can
Tonight we're going to hear from two viable candidates and one good old-fashioned New York nut. First up, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Hello, voters. You all know me. I got us through COVID and then yada, 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 Hong Kong squeeze, squeeze. Anyway, I'm back. I am born, bred New Yorker. I love it here. I know this city like the back of a woman's back. Mamma mia. Next, we have the Democratic nominee, Zoran Mandani.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. And I'm ready to spend the next hour hearing my opponents pronounce my name in ways you couldn't begin to imagine. And I know some of you are out there scared of the idea of a young socialist Muslim mayor, so allow me to put you at ease by smiling after every answer in a way that physically hurts my face.
There it is.
All right.
Oh, boy.
And now let's do a fun one. The Republican nominee, Curtis Sliwa. Yes. Mr. Sliwa, your opening statement.
I'm thrilled to be here and not getting shot in the back of a yellow cab 5 times by the Gottis and Gambinos as I was famously in 1992, 1993, and 94. But I'm the right choice to be a next mayor. No offense to my opponents, Mr. Cuomo, and I believe I'm saying this right, Zoltar Rob Zombie.
That's not even close.
All right, candidates, you're all running to be mayor of New York City. So,
all right, now hold on a second. Now there's a part we want to get to. Is this coming up here? I'm running. So copyright pause.
Copyright pause, but
then,
add some commentary here.
Yes.
So first of all, they set this up properly.
Yeah.
Cuomo is a retread.
Mm.
Mamdani's the young, earnest fella.
Right.
And Curtis Sliwa is a right-wing nutjob who can't stop talking about the fact that he was shot in the back of a yellow cab. We played that for you on the show. It is just so integral to who he is.
I guess that's... Yeah.
That, of course, they had to cover that.
Guess so.
Listeners to Kagro in the Morning, longtime listeners, even those who are, longtime listener, first-time calling in like me, recognize that story right away.
Yeah.
Because you can't not.
Right. And it's possible that you could easily have missed that story if it wasn't for the focus on the race. He's a character for sure. He doesn't matter, but he's a very interesting character.
Yeah, let's hear a little more.
All right.
my question is, why would you want the worst job in the world? As we all know, as soon as you are elected mayor, everyone in the city immediately hates you. And in that way, I am already one step ahead of the game. Mr. Mamdani, same question.
I want to be mayor so I can deliver a better New York. Free healthcare, affordable housing, free Wi-Fi. As mayor, can I make that happen? I'm not sure yet. But together, we're going to find out that the answer is no.
I gotta say something. My opponent, Norbert Damn Daniel, is inexperienced and frankly a Nepo baby, whereas my dad was just governor of New York.
And of course, as you know, my dad was brutally kidnapped and tied to the tracks of the cyclone at Coney Island. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Why do you want to be mayor?
I need a job.
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
All right. You get it?
Yeah, tied to the
tracks. You know who Curtis Lewa is?
Sure.
Now you know who Curtis Lewa is.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, we have tied to the tracks of the cyclone music, I guess, right? It's standing by at all times, so you can't not.
Right. So, in other words, Cuomo is running on fear.
Yes.
Mamdani is running on hope.
Oh.
And Curtis Sliwa is running on being Curtis Sliwa. And that's why they're portraying them the way they are. They are just nailing exactly who they are.
Yeah, well, that's the key to that kind of routine. Otherwise,
right, which is why often the cold open on Saturday Night Live is fun to watch during political years and, maybe not the rest of the show.
Sometimes true. By Update, yeah. You watch, stay awake for Update and then...
Yeah.
Okay.
Or watch the clip later. But anyway.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get just one more. Maybe we can get the bagel question in.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see. Boy, well, if they come sue us, I don't know. They'll settle for a couple $1 million. I'll win. Don't worry about it.
On to the most important question tonight. What's your go-to bagel order, Mr. Mamdani?
That, by the way, they're serious about that. They actually, people talk about that. And I've seen people on social media lately saying that, tell me your standby, your usual bagel order, and I'll tell you, whether you could win a race for mayor. And it's amazing. It's amazing what some people say is their
I personally like a toasted cinnamon raisin with a schmear, and which means a dollop of cream cheese on it.
Yes.
That's my go-to.
Which means you lose because they get angry about sweet bagels.
Cinnamon raisin, that's ridiculous. You must be from the suburbs. Yeah, I know.
It's very funny. You should see the bagels they have here, by the way. Oh my God, the flavors. Yeah. No, I'm just plain but scallion cream cheese. I like a little savory. That's all right. Anyway, yeah, people have very complicated ones. Let's see what they got. So your go-to bagel order, Mamdani, is first. Okay.
What I'd like is for the person serving me that bagel to be paid a living wage.
There's the smile. Okay.
Boo! Relax, nerd. Mr. Cuomo, go-to bagel order? I swear to God, I am not saying this to pander to Jewish voters, but it's a latke smeared with gefilte fish eaten in a booth next to Barbra Streisand by the light of a menorah. Once again, boo! Mr. Sliwa, go-to bagel order.
As you know, in 1982, I had my penis cut off and fed to me by the Yakuza. So, obviously, blueberry bagel, toasted hard, strawberry cream cheese, eaten over a garbage can.
Yeah. Thank you, candidates.
We can stop there.
All right. Yeah.
Right, there's a lot more to it, and it's just as funny. But, hey, that's New York.
Yeah. And apparently, if you really want an ornate one, you're supposed to say everything bagel, lox, tomato, capers, onion, like that.
Pizza.
Jeez.
With some
well,
falafel.
you can't get too crazy, but yeah, it is the lox, and I guess the capers are the real, Well, you eat disgusting garbage. You must be from New York. You're right. Genuine. Ugh. Anyway. Yep. Okay. So, all right. They're voting tomorrow. Hooray. We'll be done with this.
They're voting tomorrow, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
They've already voted a lot.
That's true, too.
Okay. So here's the thing. Final New York City early voting breakdown by age put together by Adam Carlson and Zachary Donini.
Okay. On a bagel.
Noah Rudnick. These are the experts putting together a lot of this stuff. Let me tell you, okay, 2025 general election. Remember, there's no ranked choice voting here. That's only for the primaries.
Right.
2025 general election, New York City, early voting total by age group. And this is just phenomenal.
By age group. Okay.
Okay. 18 to 29.
Do they even have any of those?
18 to 29-year-olds. In 2021, they represented 11.1% of the electorate. Final electorate, 2021, 11%. Now, 14.4%.
Aha.
They're voting at 130% of what they voted in 2021, if you compare them.
I see.
30 to 39-year-olds. In 2021 were 16%, now they're 14%.
Yeah, all right. They got bored with voting.
But under 40s, okay, 18, in fact, let's do 40 to 49 as well. We're 22% in 2021, now they're 13%.
40s.
But when you add them all together, 18 to 49-year-olds are 49% of people who have already voted. 18 to 49-year-olds, 49%. That's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, those are
young people are coming out to vote.
Going out to vote, right? You bring your kids, I guess, if you're 49.
Right? 50 plus, which I think was something like 66% in the last 2021 mayoral election, is now 51.3%.
Okay.
Yes, that'll go up on election day.
Yeah, they.
But where you're starting, and you're looking at the early vote, okay, the most conservative elements, the 50 to 59-year-olds and the 60 to 69-year-olds.
Yeah.
The Reaganites, okay? The 50 to 59-year-olds are down 12.5% compared to 4 years ago. 60 to 69 is down 17%.
Well, that's because Trump insulted Reagan.
Yep.
They're mad. Not really.
So Adam Carlson, the pollster, is looking at this, says, this is phenomenal. A very young electorate for an off-year municipal election. And in the primary, many expected Cuomo to do better on election day than he did in early voting because the gray wave of seniors was coming out for him, and it didn't happen. And there's no reason to think it's going to happen this time.
Okay. I mean, luckily, it's almost done. I'll be very glad to have the election over, although, the repercussions of the election will continue. People are already making... Yeah, true. Less so, I think, here. Here we'll just be excited and have a big party. I hope.
Right.
In New York, yeah, people making threats of all kinds, Republicans, that if they say, though when Mamdani wins, we're gonna move, light the city on fire, call in a bombing strike from the Russians, whatever.
So again, none of that is really going to have any effect on national politics other than Mamdani's name is going to be on everybody's lips. Does it matter if he gets more than 50 versus winning at 49? Not really, but, bragging rights and all of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So let's see what happens. Let's see,
yes.
What people vote for. There's a lot of excitement for Mamdani, just like there's excitement for Spanberger. There's excitement for Mikey Sherrill. The New Jersey race is going to be closer than the Virginia race for governor, but Mikey Sherrill's still likely to win. And so what happens when the Democrats win all three? It has no effect and no implication whatsoever for 2026.
Yeah.
Well, except if they don't win, you're going to hear about how this is absolutely disaster for Democrats, and that's what that means for 2026. So don't pay attention to any of it either way. Just say.
Right. Although, we also, I guess, have to be aware in the background that I haven't heard much about people reporting the effects. Well, I guess because it hasn't happened yet, but a lot of dispatching of some very shady poll watching schemes for Election Day in those three, in the three states where I don't know if there was so much of a threat of doing it in New York City, but New Jersey and Virginia, though, it is said Trump has been making all sorts of weird threats about having federal, armed election observers, which really
probably isn't going to make all that much difference. What will make a difference is that quietly, Trump has been pouring millions of dollars trying to support Jack Ciattarelli on Facebook ads and so on and so forth. So the thing to watch in New Jersey isn't so much, again, the amount that Sherrill wins by. It's going to be less than Virginia. I think the question is going to be in the subgroups.
All right.
How do Jews vote? How do Latinos vote?
Yeah. What's their bad
How do South Asians vote?
Mm-hmm.
The Hispanic population, Latino population in New Jersey, I think tends to be a little bit more Cuban than Dominican and Puerto Rican, the way New York City is. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens in Passaic County. Let's see what happens in some of those. So those subgroups we probably won't get right away, but that'll be interesting in terms of going forward, because then it will be, did the Democrats fix their Latino-Hispanic problem, which defected to Trump in 2024? What happens now? And that's part of the reason why that race is going to be interesting.
Okay. I'll take it.
So
we'll see.
Let's look at some national stuff. Steve Kornacki presents an NBC News poll, not with video. He won't make you totally get sued.
All right.
Steve Kornacki, NBC News poll, Trump drop performance, approve 43, disapprove 55. Some of the lowest numbers of his second term.
Yeah.
And Sarah Longwell looks at that and points out. The reason Democrats are leading in the generic ballot despite having a worse party image than Republicans is because people most pissed at the Democrats are Democrats.
True.
Who think their party isn't fighting Trump hard enough. And she gets that from her focus groups. She's not just making it up. The generic ballot in the NBC poll with Trump 43% approval is Democrat 50, GOP 42. 8 points.
Yeah.
8 points is a landslide for Democrats. Even though Democratic Party image 28% positive, 53% negative, and the GOP is 37% positive, 46% negative. Why is that? Because Republicans universally rally around their anti-Semites and totalitarians. And the Democrats are, you're not perfect, so what's the deal here?
Right.
But who am I going to vote for? Democrat 50, GOP 42. Don't lose sleep over it. It's always the way it is. Democrats have always been the big party with infighting, and that's okay as long as you win.
Yes, a lot of it gets excused if you win.
Yeah. New NBC poll, same one. This is Sahil Kapoor reporting. Who do voters say is more to blame for the government shutdown? 52% blame Trump and Republicans. 42% blame Democrats. Every single poll that looks at this shows Democrats being blamed less than Republicans by about 10 points. That's a disaster for Republicans. They assumed Democrats would immediately cave as soon as it became unpopular for them. They were wrong. They're still wrong. Mm-hmm. Even some of the Benji Sarlin said, I figured the Democrats would cave right away. I was wrong.
Surprise. As a matter of fact, we are one day shy. Tomorrow will be the 35th day of shutdown. That will tie the all-time record, also set under Trump administration, in case you were wondering. So that's kind of where we are. The whole month of October was spent shut down. That's quite a bit. And that's quite a lot of missed paychecks out there as well. And if you're thinking, well, at least there's SNAP to feed us while the paychecks aren't coming. No, there's not that either.
Right. Jake Sherman looks at that NBC poll and says 1 year before the 2026 midterm elections, Democrats lead Republicans by 8 points, the largest lead for either party on the congressional ballot in that poll, NBC News poll, comparing apples to apples, since the 2018 midterms. Where I think the Democrats won something like 44 seats.
Woohoo! All right.
If that's what it is at the end, and G. Elliott Morris points out, and by the way, the party out of power usually gains in that generic ballot from now until election day.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense given the usual election.
Historically, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Right, because the disengagement reminded that we don't like who's in power.
Yeah. Trump claims not to understand the dynamic of it, but he's aware of it, and he's complaining bitterly about it. And I think he's trying to set that up for a claim that that's unfair. How could that be the case? All of a sudden, every single time? I mean, doesn't it sound like that's rigged? No, that's a pattern of what people do normally when they have free, fair elections. They reject the party in power, almost always. They get tired of you. That's all. It's not hard to understand. It sounds like rigging to me. I think he's
exactly. If Mark Caputo is right and the one having fun is the one that's going to win, then my theory is that the one that loses is the one that says, "Oh, you can't trust any of the polls." CNN, you can't trust them. NBC, what do they know? Right. Give me a good Atlas Intel or Trafalgar. That's the only one I trust. Except if you get lousy numbers from them. No, it's not that. You have to use coefficient. You have to use some other Republican-leaning poll. Yeah. So no.
All right.
Red Eagle, or we'll make a new one, but otherwise I have to dissect them. So CNN, in fact, is out this morning. New Trump approval poll, disapproved 63, approved 37. That's a 26-point difference. The last poll, disapproved plus 16. Now it's plus 26, 10-point swing away from Trump. And their generic ballot is Democrats 47, Republicans 42. I think that the Washington Post poll over the weekend had a 2-point Democratic lead. All polls show a Democratic lead. So the average Democratic lead is probably around 5 points at this point, but that's not as important as the concept that it's going to get better for Democrats as time goes on. So that's really the point there. Maybe a 4-point lead if you look at the generics altogether, but specific polls with a good track record like NBC, I think are telling the story. So one has to keep in mind that. TIPP poll out today, also an A-ranked poll by the old 538. Approve 40, disapprove 51. Approval loses 2 points since the last time they did it. So, and disapprove gains 5. So in other words, 40 to 51 in June. That same poll had Trump at a net -1. Now he's at a net -11. So again, every way you look, there's like a 10-point swing against Trump that's been happening. Among independents, approved 28, disapprove 59.
Wow. There was at least 160 disapprove in the mix today. That's really amazing.
Yeah. So, independents have lost faith in the Trump administration. That's what matters. And again, why is that important? This is all the environment that people are Jay Jones are trying to win in. If this were 2021, Jay Jones would have no chance.
Yes.
But it's not. It's 2025, and Trump is putting up these numbers.
Great.
Right? Ron Brownstein points out, for those tracking Trump's standing with the groups where he made his most important gains in 2024, his disapproval here with young adults in the Washington Post ABC News poll is 66% disapproval. Among minorities without a college degree, his disapproval is 71. That's not a realignment. That's why I want to look at those New Jersey numbers and see what happens there.
All right. Haven't got long to wait.
And looking at the shutdown, Benji Sarlin actually said, in terms of policy, not sure what Dems get out of this yet, but I was skeptical of the short-term politics for them. And the evidence is overwhelming. They rallied their base without alienating the overall electorate so far, which is really the key.
Well, they did have a tremendous advantage going in. I don't know whether that was part of his thinking, Sarlin's, or not. But I mean, again, just as we say, just traditionally the party in power loses seats in the midterm elections. When there's a government shutdown, it doesn't really matter almost how you got there or what's at stake or how long it lasts. It's Republicans' fault. They're the only ones who, generally speaking, say things like, we don't care. We don't need the government. People will be better off without it. That's one party believes that. The other party believes the opposite. And everybody remembers that. And sometimes it's not even true necessarily, just as it's never been true that Republicans are better on the economy. It's just one of those things people walk around saying, because I heard that once, and I don't know, I guess it made sense, or maybe it was true in the 70s or 60s, or I don't know when it was supposed to be true. But, it's just one of those things. A government shutdown? I know who did that. It's an automatic answer. So I don't know. That should have been factored in. It's a crazy time. Trump stands lots of things on their head. There's also, of course, I guess if the history as well, they've always blamed them on Republicans because reasons, and lay out those reasons and say, oh, you're talking about that time when there was facts and truth and people believed that stuff. And now that we don't do that anymore. I imagine maybe a higher percentage of Republicans than usual blame Democrats for the shutdown. It may be that in the past, even Republicans said, yeah, we did this. I don't know. I'm not sure. But I guess it should have been a factor in more people's predictions about whether or not there would be caving. Although, I guess that happens a lot too. Well, we blame Republicans, but you did cave. So I don't know why you did that. That's not unusual either. All right. Well, we're very glad that they stuck with it. I guess the issues were just so pure and clean. And I guess also, I suppose you could have convinced people early on, if we stick with this and say that the fight is over SNAP benefits and healthcare premium subsidies and stand by that long enough, Trump will have a Great Gatsby party in the middle of it and we'll totally win. All right. You know what? I like those odds. And he delivered. All right. Well, what can I tell you? He's nuts. Anything else?
Anything else? He's nuts. So I just want to mention in brief, just because you should be aware of the internecine Civil War battle of conservative Republicans over what to do about Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson.
Oh, that one.
And the influx of anti-Semitism into the Republican Party /conservatism/MAGA.
Mm-hmm.
And although Nick Fuentes, who is an avowed white supremacist, will be targeted as the problem isn't him, it's Tucker Carlson, who in his decline and decrease in popularity nonetheless still has reach and chose to platform him, which is bad enough, but you could have ignored that. Heritage Foundation, however, came to Tucker Carlson's defense and said no matter how bad he was at platforming this neo-Nazi white supremacist guy, there's no such thing as having a problem on the right. We need to be a united front. That's why we at Heritage never allow any other opinions except mine.
Okay.
And we need to be united behind Tucker Carlson because we cannot let the leftist win.
Yeah.
And many others including at Heritage, are saying, wait a minute, dude, this guy's a Nazi. No, that's too far for me. Bridge too far. I work here and I'm not doing this. I used to work here. I used to be a trustee. I'm not doing this. And so the pundit roundup this morning is full of a lot of these, feedback problems that the Heritage Foundation is getting over this. There's going to be a lot more of this because this is really turning out to be a major problem for them. First of all, that they're platforming a neo-Nazi apologist, and Carlson isn't that far behind. But secondly, that Heritage Foundation is backing them. And so right now, what's happening in the right is like, I don't want to have anything to do with the Heritage Foundation. So that's sort of interesting. Yeah. And I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. I'm not saying that Carlson and the Nick Fuentes will lose. They'll probably win this fight, but it's just going to marginalize and shrink the Republican Party even further.
Yeah. Well, it's happening also at the same time that we have. I don't know what to make of it as I'm watching it, but watching people like Marjorie Taylor Greene defect on the central issues that Democrats have identified for standing in the way of reopening.
Marjorie Taylor Greene is presenting herself as a moderate.
I don't know how.
I speak for everybody because I think she wants to run for Senate in Georgia, but that's besides the point. And meanwhile, Mamdani is campaigning in 7 or 8 different languages like Fiorello used to do.
Yes. Well,
and it's really interesting to see and juxtapose that with what's going on at Heritage. It's just, these are interesting times. That's all I can tell you.
Last minute.
And then throw in a little Glenn Youngkin saying that anybody of South Asian heritage should move out of the state. Good luck with that. I think they live in Virginia.
Yeah. There's going to be a huge backlash from that. The Indian community here is tremendous and a significant. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's racist and he doesn't look, but a significant percentage of the state legislature is South Asian. I mean, they've done enormously well in electing themselves into the power structure. They're right there with them. And he's like, you brown people. Gross. All right. See you Wednesday. All right. Welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. So we'll dive into some of the crazy as soon as possible. Although staring me in the face here is a note card I left for myself to thank a couple of new folks who've signed up over at Patreon in the last, couple of weeks or so, I guess. And let's see. Let me grab the card. All right. And so it's just a 2 at the moment. And by the way, it should be like 15 or 20. So if you're still thinking it over, head on over to patreon.com/KagroX and sign up to support us with easy recurring monthly contributions. And I've set up a couple of nice little categories to help you do that. And, if you're an everyday listener, we make the pitch this way all the time, although I need to make this pitch again on tape at some point and substitute it in for my old outdated commercials, which every day I beat myself up over the fact that I haven't made any new ones. And then I say, I have so many other things I have to take care of. But if you're an everyday listener, if you, if you got an extra $1 that you might otherwise toss in the tip jar elsewhere, well, don't stop sending in dollars into the tip jar. But think of tipping us $1 for each show that we bring you. And since we do 25, somewhere between 20 and 25 shows every month, that brings you up to the $25 a month category. If you can't make it quite that far, maybe 50 cents is more your speed. That category is there too. But welcome then to Nathan Broadus, who is a current subscriber, was a current subscriber, still is a current subscriber, but now is currently subscribing at a higher level. That's what I'm talking about. As of the 24th of last month. So big thanks go out to those of you who have been longtime supporters who then say, yeah, you know what? I value it more each day, perhaps, or I just value it more than I thought in the beginning, and I was giving it a trial period. Or also, I think the first time out of the box with Patreon, we basically said, I don't know what number to put here, $5 a month, I guess. That seems like not a very big commitment. And over time, more and more of you have said, now that you mention it, I really should reevaluate that. Maybe it is 10. Maybe it is 25. Maybe it's some other custom number that I ought to be doing. But $5 was that was the option that we threw out there. Oh, yeah, all right. You asked me, sure, fine, $5. Well, okay. Now we make it hard. We give you a choice. But Nathan brought us. Thank you for making that decision to boost your contribution. And then I got a notice just over the weekend. Now I'm gonna make my best guess at the pronunciation, but Craig, another Craig. We just recently had Craig Bagstad join us, but Craig Fastnacht, which isn't that a donut? Like it is, isn't it? So, but F-A-U-S, Faust. Do you use the U-ish sound in there? Fastnacht or Fastnacht? And do you say Nacht? And I don't know. Well, thank you, Craig. We say thank you, Nacht, I guess, for joining up. But Craig, I noticed, has been a long time. I mean, really long time. Listen, I don't know that you've listened all the time in between, but it occurs to me, Craig, I have emails from you from like back in 2012 when we were doing the shows at the Democratic Convention, and Armando was with me. I mean, going all the way back. So you've been the whole time listening and supporting the show that way. And now I think maybe this is the first time you've signed up at Patreon, perhaps, or maybe, I don't know, sometimes Patreon is a little buggy, or people sign up and then they cancel, things go south, whatever, they come back, and they've forgotten their account, so they make a new account. And I'm not certain whether that's the case for you, but if you're new at supporting it, that's what we're talking about. You're a long-time listener, and finally say, all right, yeah, you know what? This is the time that I need to be supporting the show. Or if I've been supporting the show before and something happened, or my credit card, sometimes the credit card expires and you go, oh my God, all right, I'll sign up for a new account. I don't know what the story is there, but I did want to say, I don't think I've seen anybody with as long a record of listening that was evident, like in the paper trail, in emails and things like that. So I was very impressed by that. Thank you very much for hanging in there all that long. All right. So another one of those people that, well, people sometimes say in notes to us, well, you keep us sane through all of the craziness. And I mean, we keep you on an even keel, but I'm wondering whether, we could be the nuts in all of this, right? And they're the ones staying sane. We're on an even keel, but it's a crazy keel. So, but it's even. I don't know. So anyway, thanks very much to Nathan and Craig for joining us. That's some pitch, isn't it? Oh boy, I got to work on honing that and making it a little bit more convincing. Anyway, we could go a totally different direction now. Instead of the earnest thanks to everyone, how about, damn it, everything's going to hell and the president's crazy? Because there's a lot of evidence of that. I haven't parsed through the 60 Minutes thing in its entirety yet, but there were, I don't know, 10 clips or so, I assume, some, maybe more. Aaron Rupar, of course, tore the thing apart and aired also, shared all kinds of clips. And there were probably 4 or 5 of them that I was like, yeah, this just gets the regular tag of the president should be removed from office because he's plainly insane. One of them stood out in particular, but there were definitely a couple, including, let's see, he tells Norah O'Donnell at some point that, again, I have a Second Amendment, which means I can do whatever I want. I can invade any city. She asks him, you said you would do more than maybe the National Guard, sending them to others. What did you mean by that? And he just says, it means the Army, the Air Force, the Marines. I can do that wherever, and don't worry about it. I'll just do it. I have the right. Here's one. Yeah, and as is noted here, as Blue Sky pal Steve Rocks 35 has to say here, this is like 10 things. What has he said? He's had at least 10 things in this interview that would ordinarily be impeachable. And this one, in Steve's opinion, might be the worst of them. Norah O'Donnell asks him, what does that mean, send more than the National Guard? And I mean, I can play you the clip, but, Trump, and you understand the voice. So excerpt from the excerpt that Aaron uses in print here is, well, if you had to send in the Army or the Marines, I'd do that in a heartbeat. I hope it will be one of the last, but you know. Anyway, we have a thing called the Insurrection Act. I could use that immediately, and no judge can even challenge you on that. If I wanted to, I could. Yeah, so this is the second time I think that I've seen him express that opinion. Someone must have told him, the Insurrection Act is unreviewable by judges, and it's not. Although that leads me actually to the next of the craziness things that I wanted to share. Although I did mean to do that one last because it deserves some different analysis. But maybe we'll just stick to that part. This idea, that it's unreviewable, which it isn't. But it is difficult to challenge ordinarily, and it's because it's one of those statutes, one of several, but this one stretches way back, of course, one of the originals. But we keep making this mistake up through the modern era of allowing the president the power to do things if there's basically what we say, a presidential determination. If the president determines that it's necessary because A, B, or C, or that there determines that there's an emergency, or determines that national security demands it, we'll allow it. And that's a very loose standard because really all it means is, well, yes, essentially we're saying as long as the president says, for reasons I determine that it's necessary, we'll defer to that judgment and allow this thing to happen. But that's because the statute assumes a sane president who's at least marginally well advised and will make considered decisions. And that's not what we've got. And I mean, you can make that excuse all the time and say, well, George W. Bush wasn't really making smart decisions and he was being advised by people who are just like, just exercise the power, forget about whether or not it's really justified. And that's problematic because having the issue rest on presidential determinations, presidential findings, presidential declarations, whatever, in whatever form it takes, it is a loose standard. And if you disagree with the president frequently, you'll probably end up disagreeing with his assessment there too and say, well, he's just saying it because he knows that the statute requires that he say the magic words. So he says the magic words, but usually there's at least arguably something there. When it's intervention with military force abroad, as much as we disagreed or as much as we thought that maybe the evidence wasn't solid or was even faked for the claims of, say, WMD in Iraq, there was at least, I don't know, a faction, a significant portion of the country that said, no, actually, I do believe that. And it's not hard to believe in general, in the abstract, that a dictatorial Middle Eastern regime would in fact have been secretly manufacturing and stockpiling chemical weapons. It's very hard to prove that they are doing it, but the international community was certainly convinced that this was a danger with the Saddam Hussein regime at some point. The real question at the time of the launch of the Iraq War was, were they at that point still violating the international requirement that they destroy their chemical weapons stockpiles? And they had them. They had used them. We had all seen that. They said that they were in compliance with the UN inspection regime. And that was the question. Are you really in compliance? As opposed to like what we're doing now with attacking the boats in the Caribbean and now off on the other side in the Pacific as well, and saying, well, they're full of drugs. And, at the very least, we sent Colin Powell to the UN with a vial that was supposed to look like it had, anthrax in it. And again, it's not that the international community doesn't believe that drugs are being smuggled. But of course, if you're saying it's fentanyl, well, maybe they don't actually believe that fentanyl is being smuggled out of Venezuela to Trinidad and Tobago, for instance. Or why aren't you interdicting, right? You know, the typical process here is if you've identified the boat, stop it, board it, grab the evidence, grab the people, put them on trial, and everything's pointing to no here in terms of, are you telling the truth about who's on these boats? And they keep saying, we don't even know who their names are. We just know that they're drug smugglers. How do you even know? How could you possibly? Well, there's all sorts of presidential determinations going on at all sorts of levels, including, by the way, also over the weekend, more threats to take action on the mainland in Venezuela, bomb them, whether it's invasions, whatever. But by the way, also a threat of invasion of Nigeria over the weekend, in case you missed that one. Trump must have seen on Fox News somewhere, Boko Haram has killed some Christian people. That worries him because they were Christians, of course, and people pointing out they're killing everybody of all stripes everywhere all the time, including Muslims, but you never intercede for them. But you know how it is with Mr. Christian Conservative. We got to save the Christians. They're very endangered. Anyway, so now he's talking about what did he put on Truth Social? We'll go in guns a-blazing. This is a president now saying, going in guns a-blazing to protect our beautiful Christians, or whatever the hell it was that he said. Anyway, that too would be, well, the president is making a determination that these things are happening. The president is making a determination that we can only allow, what was it the other day, 7,500 refugees a year, plus they all have to be white South Africans. That's a presidential determination now. That's an actual vehicle that they use to try to arrive at justification that's supposed to make judges want to stay hands off on this stuff, that a presidential determination has been made. But one of the 15 totally insane things that actually made it to air in the the 60 Minutes interview yesterday was this exchange in which, and this one, I guess, maybe this one I ought to play on the air just because why the hell shouldn't you hear it in Trump's voice? But it means moving it to the other computer. So bear with me here while I do that. But Norah O'Donnell is asking him about his latest pardon. And what he says is shocking enough in its own right, but it's also has implications for all of the various things that presidential findings and determinations are supposedly justifying. So let me get to this Aaron Rupar clip on Blue Sky, and then we can play that exchange. I guess this one you deserve to hear in his own words, although, deserve, I don't know. Nobody deserves to have to listen to that.
This year, the president has pardoned or shortened the sentences of more than 1,600 people. The latest pardon was for a cryptocurrency tycoon who is known as CZ. The company CZ founded, Binance, helped boost the profile of the Trump family's crypto firm, World Liberty Financial. He pled guilty in 2023 to violating anti-money laundering laws. Right. The government at the time said that CZ had caused significant harm to U.S. national security, essentially by allowing terrorist groups like Hamas to move millions of dollars around. Why did you pardon him?
Okay, are you ready? I don't know who he is. I know he got a 4-month sentence or something like that, and I heard it was a Biden witch hunt.
In 2025, his crypto exchange Binance helped facilitate a $2 billion purchase of World Liberty Financial's stablecoin. And then you pardoned CZ. How do you address the appearance of pay for play?
Well, here's the thing. I know nothing about it because I'm too busy doing the other.
But
I can only tell you that.
But he got a
No,
pardon?
I can only tell you this. My sons are into it. I'm glad they are because it's probably a great industry, crypto. I think it's good. They're running a business. They're not in government.
Okay, there's 15 things that are horrifically wrong with all of that. Also, by the way, in the cutaway shot, I love how hunched over he is. But anyway, where do you start with that one? Are you ready? I don't know who he is. In the middle of accusing Biden of having signed pardons and various other things by auto pen, or he was so old and feeble and confused he didn't know what he was doing. I assume this is Trump thinking, well, when I'm being deposed in a lawsuit, I'll just say I don't know anything about it, and that would be enough. Or I don't, I had my people handle that. I don't know. They bring me the papers. I mean, he's trying to duck responsibility for it and everything. And Donald does a reasonably good job given the constraints that are probably on or under the new ownership and direction of CBS to lay out the basic fact of it. Well, come on. He helped you pocket a gigantic windfall in cryptocurrency, and then you pardoned him, even though he was helping finance Hamas. Like, what? It couldn't be any worse. Oh, also, he did it in Great Gatsby costume at the same time. Oh, really? Well, what a great guy. But so pretending I don't know who he is, how do you get a presidential pardon out of I don't know who he is? I heard there was a witch hunt or something. Presidents ask questions about these things, but not this one. It's genuinely possible that he doesn't know. It's also genuinely possible that he's just lying because he's thinking this is his usual play. Well, I'm guilty of this, but if I just say I don't know what I'm talking about, or I never heard of it, I don't know what this is, that maybe they'll let me off the hook. And I mean, she does. She doesn't say, what are you, stupid? You can't say that. That's actually worse. But there you go. So it's entirely possible that they are giving him papers and saying, sign this. What is it? Or he doesn't even bother asking. I don't know. Who cares? It looks official. Give me a hamburger. It might be happening that way. It might be happening like, well, oh, God, we're really doing this one? All right, well, I'll have to tell everybody I don't know who this is because, God, he's giving my sons billions of dollars. I can't. It's going to make me look terrible. I'll just have to deny the whole thing. Then at the end, I just thought that was huge dodge, too. Well, my sons like crypto. I don't know, and I hope it does great for them. That's not even part of the question. But what struck me was interesting was if you take his claim at face value, and I guess why would anybody do that? But supposing you do, right? I think this should create problems for him in a lot of court cases. Really specifically, I mean, there are certainly people who say, well, you keep accusing Biden of using AutoPen to sign his pardons. And in fact, Republicans in Congress saying they're going to introduce some sort of resolution. I don't know what kind. Just a regular resolution, I guess. But that they want to introduce some sort of action that would reverse or revoke Biden pardons on, which hitherto has been considered to be impossible. And they will tell you is impossible for Trump pardons. But they'll say it's permissible to do because he didn't sign them. AutoPen signed them, which is also not actually an issue and never has been an issue. But the claim will be he didn't do it personally, so he therefore didn't know anything about it. And it was someone else abusing the presidential power, usurping presidential power and signing things that the president didn't even know about. Although actually it's sort of evolved as Republicans are saying, no, he knew about it. It's just that using an AutoPen isn't a real thing. You shouldn't be allowed to do that and have it count, which is also from left field. AutoPen signed things have worked for everything all the time, every day for presidents of both parties and continue to do so now. But their claim is that they're somehow invalid. Although I think that the real spirit behind the accusation is that it's somehow using the AutoPen means either that someone else actually ordered it without the president's knowledge, or the president was so out to lunch that he couldn't possibly have had a valid intent to pardon such a person, as evidenced by the fact that he didn't sign it and just dispatched it to the AutoPen. Someone else dispatched it to the AutoPen instead. Which brings us to this. If you take his claim at face value, I don't know who that was. I don't know what the investigation was about. I heard it was a total witch hunt. And I mean, what did he say? I heard he got 4 months in prison. Like, who needs to be pardoned from a 4-month prison sentence? By the time the pardon works its way through, the sentence is over. So I don't know what he's talking about there. But if we take it at face value, that he knows nothing about the guy, then that's certainly as much being checked out and having no particular personal interest or understanding in the pardon, whether you sign it by hand or by auto pen. It evidences the same disengagement. So if disengagement is the problem, then you have the same problem. But on top of that, I would say I'd be in court now. I mean, if you're in court already saying this is an improper use of whatever presidential power, and basically the answer is sorry, I understand your concern, but the statute leaves this to the president. As long as the president makes a determination of XYZ, that this is an act of war that he's responding to, or that he does have the authority to send troops here, or that he does have the authority to limit immigration to 7,500 refugees and they all have to be South African white people, whatever it is. If the statute leaves it to presidential determination and the government, this is the most important part, the government comes to court saying that determination has been made. Now, ordinarily, you don't ask this question because ordinarily it would be ridiculous to ask this question. But they do come and say the presidential determination has been made. Here is the executive order or the White House document, which says, as president, I hereby determine XYZ. And here's the signature, and that's enough. And it would be ridiculous under pretty much any other circumstance to say, yeah, but I actually think that is not true, or that this document is a forgery, or that Trump will later be saying, I think Autopen signed that. And it's a Biden finding. Autopen signed it. He didn't find it. And that really brings us back to what he says here. If he's not making any kind of moral determination, not using the sort of thought process that the founders believed would be inherent in the pardon process, and that current courts still believe, it's still the president's prerogative because he's making a personal decision. And he doesn't really have to explain it. He just has to make it. But did he? And that's the heart of the claim of the auto pen thing. But it's now going to have to be the heart of the claim of, I didn't know anything about, I don't know who he is. How do you get a pardon? A very personal act by the president. That's why it works. It's a power granted only at the federal level to the president and no one else. And they say it's even unreviewable because it's supposed to reflect a personal, thoughtful, considered decision. It could be stupid, but a personal decision made by the president. I don't know. Did I make that decision? I don't know who he is. I don't know what he was sentenced for. I don't know how long. So can you really make the claim that you've made that personal decision? I don't think so. And in fact, I don't think you can say you made any of these presidential determinations. It may be the case that you did. Don't get me wrong. It's not a free pass, but it's a new and open question in ways that it never has been before. There's a presidential determination that we have too many refugees in this country. 7,500 is going to be the cap. That's the latest one. I just bring it up because it has almost nothing to do with any of what he was talking about with the pardon itself or various other things that are hot in the news. But this is the latest one. He's made a presidential determination that it's imperative for our national security that we limit the number of refugees. And by the way, they should all be white South Africans. It's got everybody properly outraged. But there will be lawsuits. But mostly will be lawsuits because people will say, but there's refugee populations of all colors from all different countries and millions of such people who need to be able to depend on the ability to escape to the United States. They're going to sue for that right. And he's going to say, sorry, presidential determination. That they're going to go and they're going to say, look, the president made this determination. Well, the government lawyers will say, and ordinarily you can't do this, but now you can say, but did he make this determination? Did he make this determination? Two different questions, but both questioning the authenticity of the determination. Why? How? On what basis? Well, I'll tell you what. There's supposed to be a presidential determination at the heart of a pardon, and they asked him point blank, why did you do this pardon? Because it seems weird and possibly corrupt, and I know you wanted to hide from it because it sounds corrupt. But what you ended up saying was, I didn't make any kind of determination. I don't know who this is. I don't know what he did. I don't know what he's sentenced for. I don't know how long it is. So there was supposed to be a presidential determination there, And there wasn't one. We asked you, what was it? What was it about? Why did you do it? I didn't. I don't even know what you're talking about. Really? That now opens the door to questioning every presidential determination of every kind. And so it's made me so incensed that I'm 3 seconds late with the music. And that's going to upset things upstairs in the editing suite. Although the third break is the one that is the least impactful if you mess this up. So that's good news. I got to remember to stop talking a few seconds early. This would be too many seconds, however. But, so basically, if you've ever challenged or are in the middle of challenging a presidential determination, this is your day. Hi, everybody. It's me, David Waldman. Yes, the same guy who interrupts you all the time. Interrupting you one more time just to tell you again, another reminder that your contributions are what keep this show on the air, and Patreon.com, Patreon.com, is still among the easiest ways to make the sustaining subscription donations that keep us afloat. Are you ready for the pep talk about how our Patreon campaign is still going strong and growing? Well, too bad. Yeah, the plain fact is we actually are headed in the wrong direction, and whereas we once had about 175 monthly patrons, we're now actually down below 150. Time to recruit some more. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. For those of you in a position to support the show, Patreon.com does make it easy to make those secure, recurring monthly contributions to do so. Patreon.com/KagroX gets you straight to our donation page. We've been through a lot together. The worst of the pandemic, we hope. The worst of the insurrection, we hope. So go ahead and treat yourself. You don't need an excuse. Give yourself the gift of a little something you enjoy in life. Support the show. And of course, if you happen to prefer using PayPal or even the Square Cash app, we're up and running on those options too. So thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We couldn't, or at least shouldn't, do it without you. Hope you'll be on board soon too. Thanks for all your support. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I don't know whether that would succeed in court. Although these days the door is open. All of the, as we've mentioned before on the show, presumptions of regularity are in question, and this would just be another facet of that. Ordinarily, it would be, you'd look like an idiot, I think, challenging the government's representation on the underlying assumption of a presidential determination and the regularity of it. Because they would say, well, yeah, he made the determination. Here's the document. Yeah, but considering, well, a number of things. I know this is, I mean, it would be a huge stretch to base it on this, but if you're saying, you know, look, every Republican accusation is a confession, and that's been true since forever. That's not a thing that a judge is going to say, yeah, sure. Go ahead, tell me more. But it does open the door, just logically speaking. This they've done this so many times. Are we sure that Stephen Miller isn't just auto-penning stuff that he wants to be granted the deference of a presidential determination without Trump having any idea about it? Or if you think that's too much, would it be believable to you that Miller has said as much, it's been reported as much, that he has personally drafted the executive orders in many of the dumber and more extreme examples, and he brings it to Trump, and they stand there, and we've all watched Trump be presented with these executive orders and having to ask, what's this one? You know, I mean, there's 10, so that's not an abnormal question for somebody who, you know, has all his marbles. Which one is this one? And in which you could say, it's the refugees. Oh, yeah, right. We are limiting the number of refugees, and we're restricting where they can come from. I mean, this would be all the same evil intent, but would evidence for us, no, this is a president who actually, even if he didn't come up with the idea and shepherd it through, it's all right. We all understand that staff does this stuff all the time. But then you brief him on it and get his okay. Yes, I understand that the thrust of that idea. I will lend my name and my authority to that initiative as a presidential finding. Yes, let's do it. That's what's supposed to happen. But it'd be very easy to believe that, come on, Mr. Trump or Mr. President, it's time for your executive time. We go to the very golden office and everybody asks you questions and you say, I hate Rosie O'Donnell. And then it's TV and treat time. And sign this, sign this, sign this. And even so, ordinarily, people would say things like, well, look, that's the way it goes with White House staff. And the White House staff takes care of everything. The president has too much on his plate. Sometimes he just isn't going to know what he's signing. But very rarely do they go on television and as a defense say, I affirm it. I don't know. I don't want to know. I don't even care. They just give me. And when it comes down to presidential pardons, it's designed to be a moral calculation made by the president. If he's not calculating on that, he's probably not calculating on anything. So I guess the way I was putting it yesterday on Blue Sky, it just popped up again because somebody was liking it on Blue Sky. An admission that stupid, like what he said on 60 Minutes, should lead to demands that the government offer proof, be forced to offer proof. Whenever it's claimed that the president has made a determination of things like being at war or that being at war with a so-called terrorist group or that there's drug smuggling going on, which is why we've done this and we've attacked it and blown it up instead of interdicting because the smuggling is an act of war. Normally, that assertion that the president has made that determination is enough to foreclose that line of questioning, but not anymore. It's just not true anymore. You have to ask that question, right? You say the president made a determination. That's your presentation from the government. But are you sure? Can you prove it? Ordinarily, of course I can prove it. Here's the document. Yeah, but did he sign that? Did he read it? Does he understand it? Does he know he did it? What makes you so sure that he made a determination with respect to whatever this claimed emergency is? Are you cannot simply imagine that we believe you anymore, and there's good reason not to. The guy just went on 60 Minutes and told everybody, I don't know what this is. I never heard it. So, what can I tell you? That was the one that stood out for me in terms of being among the worst things he could possibly have done to himself and the most disruptive of presidential authority. But there were some other very dumb ones that made me say, yeah, he's insane. Like, are we going to war against Venezuela? And Trump saying, they emptied their mental institutions and insane asylums into the United States of America. And again, nobody is telling him that's not what political asylum means, dummy. They just let him go with this stuff. I don't know. Let's see. There's, of course, maybe the most insane and maybe the most offensive for the most people, besides the one about him not understanding the pardons. Maybe they don't care about pardons, but asking, as O'Donnell says, Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far? And Trump's answer is no, I think they haven't gone far enough, which is provocative, but also I think going to be profoundly upsetting to a lot of people who say, yeah, I mean, these raids have become embarrassing. There are certainly cheerleaders for them, but they're an embarrassment for most normies. And the idea that, no, it should get worse. We should see more of it. The international community should see us doing this more often and worse is like, yeah, we're just going to have to remove this guy from office. And which I guess is why they're so intent on making sure that they somehow don't lose the 2026 midterm elections in massive numbers. Anyway, meanwhile, it turns out that Mike Johnson continues his act as well. I don't know really why he continues to have these press conferences where he pretends he doesn't know anything about anything. But he was asked about the 60 Minutes thing and says on 60 Minutes, Trump admitted not knowing that he pardoned a crypto billionaire guilty of money laundering. Isn't that also concerning? Johnson claims, I don't know anything about it. If it's on Social media, I never see. Oh, it's 60 Minutes. You guys all watch 60 Minutes. I don't. I don't. Certainly possible. But then again, if I were having a press conference every day as Speaker of the House, I'd get briefed on some things. But this is clearly a joke, and he continues to pretend that he doesn't know anything about anything. And then the press keeps showing up, so I guess he's happy. All right. We'll shift gears and do a couple of other things here. There are any number of other angles that I have opened up that I thought might be of some particular interest. Let me is this one related to the yeah. This was an observation also on Blue Sky. Somebody I don't think I knew already. Evan Bernick, who is a associate professor at Northern Illinois University College of Law. Is Northern Illinois University, is that our basketball Salukis? I'm not sure. I think so, right? Isn't that NIU? But at any rate, so well known to the March Madness crowd anyway. But he points out not about basketball, but rather using the New York Times article, which is extraordinarily interesting, and maybe that's where we ought to close out, just to do our deep dive. There's a New York Times piece which they shared on Blue Sky. Let me open it up. The Blue Sky post is, the Justice Department told Congress this week that President Trump could lawfully continue his lethal military strikes on people suspected of smuggling drugs at sea. The move rests on the idea that a Vietnam-era law called the War Powers Resolution, you're aware of it, does not apply to airstrike campaigns. And I think if I really wanted to save us some time and long story short it, my understanding of it from skimming the article and seeing Evan's discussion here is, they got a shot at this one. I mean, I don't know if they're really going to convince courts or me, and I hate to even contemplate the idea of them convincing me, but it's not as dumb as, for instance, the argument that I have an article too that says I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, and I'm also 100% immune from it. Like, those were even dumber, I think, than this claim, but he won to some extent on those claims. So this one, though, the idea is, well, the War Powers Resolution, what is it really meant to do? It's one of these questions. Now, a lot of the people who were behind the passage of it and the crafting of it are alive, and you can ask them. And lots of other people remember its passage very clearly. But there's, I guess, room for wondering about, well, what is it really supposed to be? Because there will be some people who say, well, it's a matter of technicalities. The Congress has the power to declare war. It's not necessarily super practical in this day and age, the way conflicts begin and develop in the early stages, and there needs to be a robust power for the presidency to intervene before it's too late, because Congress will debate these things forever, and maybe by the time they decide whether or not there's going to be a war, it's too late. Whatever. But others say, well, one of the other main factors is that the president will need the ability to intervene on behalf of the United States, but whenever the president is putting American troops in harm's way, we want to make him accountable for that and say, you've got 60 days during which you can do it, but you got to brief Congress, you got to tell us what's going on, and at the end of 60 days without congressional authorization, you got to stop. You can't just, was the intent of the War Powers Resolution, in fact, to make sure that the president couldn't unilaterally put and leave U.S. troops at risk under fire without the at least tacit agreement of Congress. Now, if that's the case, the argument here is, well, if we're blowing things up from the air, and in fact blowing things up from the air using unmanned drones to do it, are we putting troops in harm's way? And if we're not, then does the War Powers Resolution even apply? It's an open question. If you view the War Powers Resolution as being supposed to, the chief reason for being is to limit the ability of the president to put troops in harm's way, as opposed to, well, shouldn't we also maybe limit the president's unilateral ability to make us look like an international rogue state by blowing things up from space even? Like, I don't care that they can't shoot back. It's that you're shooting people down in front of everybody in the name of the United States, and I don't want you to do that. Well, that's a very different question. But of course, the White House's argument is, no, it's limited to putting troops in harm's way. By the way, over the weekend, having blown up another boat or two, we're losing count at this point, the Pentagon put out word from Pete Hegseth that no troops, no U.S. troops, no U.S. forces were harmed in this strike, meaning we didn't lose anybody. But of course, yeah, in my view, all U.S. forces were harmed in this strike because they have to stand in front of the world as United States armed forces who are murdering people on the high seas for no apparent, not even high seas, coastal waters, essentially. International, to be sure. They're further enough out that I guess we're doing it in international waters. But yeah, considering the wholesale scale and lack of evidence of what we're doing, yeah, we're all in trouble. And basically, this will be considered by a large swath of the international community, and not without foundation, to be piracy, murder, what have you, war crimes. And commissions of acts like those by the U.S. armed forces in the name of the United States endangers U.S. forces everywhere by people who will be justifiably angry and upset about this, or consider the United States and its armed uniformed services to be part of a rogue state. And they might consider retaliation to be valid elsewhere in the world. So now we all have to be on high alert for retaliation from Venezuelans or any other members of the international community who might have been offended by this. Anyway, they go ahead and they make a lengthy report in the New York Times about this case that's being made. War powers law does not apply to Trump's boat strikes, administration says. The move deepened the idea that a Vietnam-era law, which says congressionally unauthorized deployments into, quote, hostilities, must end after 60 days, does not apply to airstrike campaigns. Now, a fuller background on all of this, which they do provide you, although I don't know if we're going to be able to read all the way through it and include what we started with, the comments from Evan Bernick, but maybe I can squeeze those in and then go to the fuller reading. But the idea here, one of the parts that I haven't mentioned, is that it is true that previous administrations, by which we mean Democratic administrations, have likewise attempted to lean on a similar interpretation, that airstrike campaigns don't put troops in harm's way and so therefore aren't subject to the 60-day limitation of the War Powers Act, or I guess any of the limitations of the War Powers Act. And Obama apparently leaned on this as well, despite the fact that there were at least a few members of his OLC that thought it was a bad idea and disagreed. I don't know whether they stayed around or not, but that was apparently the case. So it's not an entirely new invention, but it is being leaned on in a different way now. Now, Evan Bernick, Professor Bernick, was noting about this article that the problem here, this is the more overarching thing, but then we'll read the details. The problem here, he says, is more fundamental. The Congress has not declared war against Venezuela, right? This specific case, right? Nor has the administration shown that these people in the boats are acting on behalf of Venezuela and, I would say and or, attacking the U.S. So, right, what we have here, we haven't declared war. They haven't declared war. Nobody has established that the people in the boats are Venezuela's agents. And even if they aren't, no one has been able to establish that they're attacking the U.S. The best claim that they can make is these drugs that are being taken to Trinidad and Tobago, which may not even exist. I mean, Trinidad and Tobago do. The drugs might not. But these alleged drug runners are going to eventually get this product to the United States, and people in the United States are going to be, they're going to be offered these drugs on the open market. They'll consume them as part of their own free will, although, the addictive nature of it, I guess you could debate about that. But the whole point the administration is trying to make is that these drugs make their way to the United States and they kill people. So if you're killing people and those people are Americans, then you must be at war with us, which is not the same thing as anything. Right? As son of Sam, can we nuke his, his city block that we think he lives on because he's obviously at war because he's killing Americans? No, you're not supposed to do that. Would Trump think so? Trump would say, yes, you can. Go ahead. Don't worry about it. It's a bad block anyway. Plus, I bought it and I want to build on it. But what Professor Bernick here is pointing out, all the elements that would go into a determination that the president is making a constitutional decision about war powers here are missing. No war declaration from us, no war declaration from them, no proof that anybody who's being killed has anything to do with Venezuela as a country, and some of them aren't even from Venezuela, and no evidence that there's any attack imminent or happening currently in the, on the United States or United States interests. So there's, as he says, a basic lack of constitutional power here. Can I do this act of war against Venezuela? No, none of the reasons that would ever justify the use of military force are present here. You're imagining one of them, but none of the rest exist or even are close to existing. That's a pretty good point, actually. And he says, by the way, if you don't believe, or he tells you, don't believe me, ask John Yoo. Now, I don't endorse that, but apparently, by way of evidence here, he offers up a Washington Post piece from late September from John Yoo. What's wrong with the military campaign against the drug trade? Trump's boat strikes against the cartels risk crossing the line between law enforcement and war, said John Yoo back then. So that's true. John Yoo also said it. It's unfortunate that you have to rely on John Yoo, but there you go. And Bernick finally says there, the focus on the war powers resolution from the administration is actually a distraction from the underlying lack of authority to enforce drug laws with military strikes. There's just no authority to do that. And they say, yeah, well, we do at least for 60 days because war powers resolution, because we say that drug smuggling is an act of war against us. It isn't. And you don't actually say that. And now I question whether or not you've actually made that determination as well. So there are enormous problems with this, which you already knew to be the case. All right, let me read you the New York Times piece just so we get a little bit of extra background and consideration here. Charlie Savage and Julian Barnes have put this together. It was published on Saturday. The Justice Department, if that's what they really are, I question that determination as well, told Congress last week, that President Trump could lawfully continue his lethal military strikes on people suspected of smuggling drugs at sea, notwithstanding a time limit for congressionally unauthorized deployments of armed forces into, quote, hostilities. In a briefing, and I guess they actually had one, the official who leads the department's Office of Legal Counsel, T. Elliot Gaiser, Gaiser, is that the I don't know, said the administration does not think the operation rose to the kind of hostilities covered by the 60-day limit, a key part of a 1973 law called the War Powers Resolution, according to several people familiar with the matter. In a statement provided by the White House, an unnamed senior administration official said that American service members were not in danger because the boats suspected of smuggling drugs were mostly being struck by drones far from naval ships carrying U.S. forces. The operation comprises precise strikes conducted largely by unmanned aerial vehicles launched from Navy vessels in international waters at distances too far away for the crews of the targeted vessels to endanger American personnel, the official said. I mean, that's not going to make us look all that much better, but I guess that's true Does it matter? Is the question. The U.S. military has killed about 65 people across 15 airstrikes on boats in the Caribbean Sea and Eastern Pacific so far, and the administration has told Congress that Mr. Trump, quote, determined, right? It was a presidential determination. Allegedly, I think that it may not be, that the operation counts as a formal armed conflict. That's his determination. On Saturday, the military killed 3 more men on a boat in the Caribbean. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said on social media. So far no success in getting everybody to say Secretary of War. But the stance that the operation does not count as hostilities because the people on the boat could not shoot back. Isn't that interesting? So it's okay to kill them for as long as you want because they can't shoot back. Like, that's just not going to make us look great. That's what I mean when I say it harms all of U.S. forces, and not none, but all. The stance that the operation doesn't count as hostilities because the people on the boats can't shoot back builds on a precedent established by Barack Obama during the 2011 NATO air war over Libya, to significant disagreement at the time in Congress and within Mr. Obama's own legal team. Is there a point of differentiation? Yes, there is. The War Powers Resolution says that a president who unilaterally deploys U.S. forces into hostilities, quote, shall terminate, unquote, the operation after 60 days if Congress has not authorized it by then. But the legislation left the term hostilities vague. Under that law, the clock starts no later than when a president submits a required 48-hour notice to Congress. President Trump notified Congress about the first strike in his operation on September 4th, meaning the 60-day limit will arrive on Monday. That's today. That timing had raised a question of whether he would stop, or if not, how he would justify continuing the operation. Well, he's clearly not going to stop. When the White House, Pentagon, and Justice Departments were asked that question by the New York Times last Wednesday, the administration provided a general statement that did not clarify. But Mr. Gazer laid out the administration's position in briefings to lawmakers and some staffers last week. His comments were earlier reported by the Washington Post. The statement from the unnamed official, who also argued that even at its broadest, the War Powers Resolution had been understood to apply to placing U.S. service members in harm's way, and it pointed to 2 past OLC opinions discussing military deployment issues, one from a Republican administration and one from a Democratic one. One memo from 1984, that would be Republican administration, Reagan, contained a paragraph discussing what hostilities might mean, though it did not take a position. It observed that a House report about the War Powers Resolution had said that term should be interpreted as encompassing a danger of armed conflict, not just combat. It also noted that the Ford administration had argued that hostilities referred to a situation in which U.S. armed forces were actively engaged in exchanges of fire. The other memo from 1994, Clinton, Democrat, was about Clinton's authority to unilaterally deploy peacekeeping troops to Haiti. It did not discuss the 60-day limit. But then again, it would be a little awkward. Oh, these are peacekeeping troops. Well, War Powers Resolution. Yeah, but it's peacekeeping. Yeah, but they could get shot at and they might have to shoot back. Okay, maybe. That statement did not cite the Obama-era Libya precedent on the 60-day pullout law, which, while the closest historical analog, did not lead to an opinion by the OLC at the time. The office's top lawyer at the time did not agree with the theory Mr. Obama had embraced. Now we get maybe to the point of differentiation. Other lawyers on Obama's team had come up with that theory, but their argument that the war over Libya, air war really, did not amount to hostilities was based on more than the idea that there was little risk of U.S. casualties because there were no ground troops and Libyans could not shoot back. The Obama team's argument also cited other constraining factors that are absent from Trump's boat attacks, including that the Obama-era operation was a NATO-led multilateral mission to carry out a United Nations Security Council resolution. There's a lot of other authority behind it besides just this presidential determination. By expanding on that precedent, Mr. Trump is more deeply entrenching the idea that the 60-day limit does not apply to air wars, which I don't think was really supposed to be the conclusion here. What Obama's people would no doubt be arguing is it didn't apply in that case because not only was it an air war, but it was a multilateral NATO-led air war in pursuit of a validly adopted United Nations Security Council resolution. That's a lot more than just, well, it's happening from the air, so therefore it's the same thing. That's not really a great argument. But by expanding on that precedent, that's the idea. That is an important development for the history of a law that presidents of both parties have chafed at over the past half century. And that's certainly true. Time, though, to play our music and get out of here for the day. But yeah, leave it to Trump to simplify the situation of, well, it's an air war conducted by NATO multilaterally in pursuit of a UN security resolution. Oh, you said air war? Oh, we've got an air war. There's more factors. Congress passed the War Powers Resolution, of course, near the end of the Vietnam War, after decades in which presidents from both parties had used the large standing armies left in place after World War II to send troops into combat without congressional authorization. The bill contained a package of measures intended to wrest back Congress's intended constitutional role in deciding when the United States would go to war. Nixon vetoed it, calling it unconstitutional, but Congress overrode the veto, so it became law anyway. And since then, some parts of the legislation have eroded. For instance, the law says presidents may deploy the military in hostile situations only with prior congressional authorization or if the country's under attack. And every subsequent president since Nixon has exceeded that limit, treating the provision as too narrow to be constitutional, and Congress has acquiesced by not impeaching any president for doing so. There's your gloss on history, the Frankfurter gloss, as we've called it in the past. Congress has seen the thing violated but decided not to pursue any remedy. Therefore, they authorized it.
From netrootsradio.com.
That's their best guess.
You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
Anyway, important stuff, and I think Trump really shot himself in the foot with that statement that I don't know what was going on. I don't know how these determinations get made. Wow. Well, we'll be following up on that, of course. But first, Justice Putnam takes the reins now for the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy next, right here on Netroots Radio. We will see you tomorrow. I think we might be healthy enough.